Good day. This is Terry Difazio, and you're watching Dial It Up. Today, my guest is a returning guest. This is Mary Butler. Once again, you have been interviewed by both Sharon and I before, and she is from the Out of the Darkness program, which is part of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. It's good to have you back on again.
Thanks, Terry. I'm happy to be here.
So it's been a while. Update us on what's gone on since, I don't know, it's been 3 or 4 months, hasn't it?
It has been. Well, the highlight of the past several months has been our 5th annual Out of the Darkness Walk. And that was held on September 10th, preceded on September 9th by a benefit dinner. The funds raised from both of these events go towards us reaching our goal that we set a new goal every year. So this year our goal was $15,000, and at this point in time we've raised $15,818.
That's very good, isn't it?
I thought it was very good. Nothing can surpass our first year in which we made $30,000 and we had a goal of 5. So we'll probably never get there again. But that $15,818 was wonderful. But the best part was we had 169 participants. And
okay.
Yeah, and we had about 9 teams, and it was great. But I want to say something about how we raised the money. You'll see this banner here. We had 2 of these banners that are carried at the front of each walk. And the sponsors are mentioned on here. And we're so blessed to have such a wonderful, generous community. And so we do this each year so that the sponsors know how much we appreciate them. The other thing that happens is everybody who signs up to walk, if they raise $150, they get this T-shirt.
Okay. Looks good.
And on the back of it, it has all of our sponsors. So again, the sponsors get recognition, and then we find we all start to go more to the places that sponsor us. That's what we so appreciate what they're doing. So I'm going to tell you a few other things about the walk. Nationally, there are over 300 walks each year.
Okay, in every state, I take it?
Every state has a walk, and every state has a chapter for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
So I would imagine that the bigger states would have more than one chapter?
Oh, yes. They have more than one chapter, and they have many more walks, usually.
Okay.
You know.
How many chapters does Vermont have?
Just one.
Just one? Okay.
Just one. But we have 3 walks now, and we had a couple of college campus walks. So we're getting better and better. We're growing. One of the highlights of this year's walk was that we collected 124 pair of shoes, and we lined the walk out of Gardner Park with those shoes. And those shoes signify the number of people who took their own lives last year in Vermont. 124.
Now, here's something that I hadn't planned on asking, but since you brought it up, and I think it's important, I was talking with a substance abuse prevention specialist here a while ago, and they were saying that there's a big difference between how men will commit suicide as opposed to how women will commit suicide.
That's correct.
Can you tell us briefly what you guys have found?
What we found is that men usually use guns.
Firearms.
Firearms. And that's why they're usually successful. Women try to take their own lives 4 times more often than men. But they're not successful. They don't usually use that drastic a means.
Would they use something like pills? Yeah.
Anything like that.
Either an opiate or a benzo type of drug that will suppress the nervous system?
Right. Yeah.
And that's probably why the success rate is lower, because you don't really know how much to take.
Right. And we hate to call it a success rate.
Yeah.
But, you know,
an unsuccess rate.
the problem is there are so many people that are troubled, that are depressed, and if they were to say, yes, I will go seek some mental health counseling, they would probably end up not wanting to take their lives.
Yeah, well, it's a combination too. You know, you have to ask for the help.
Yes.
And it isn't just a matter of medication. It's also a matter of a combination of medication and talk therapy as well.
That's right.
And most people don't understand that, do they?
No, they don't. A psychiatrist friend of mine years ago said there are 3 kinds of psychiatrists. They're the shockers, the talkers, and the druggers. And I think sometimes it takes a combination of those therapies to help get someone well. But sometimes it only takes a few counseling sessions. And we're hoping by doing this work in our community to decrease the taboo of both suicide and mental health. So this year we had, as I said, 9 teams. And the largest team was Sue and John Donnelly's team. Okay. Their son Brendan took his life about a year and a half ago now. He had a huge number of people who just loved him greatly. And so they had wonderful yellow T-shirts last year. And what we ask each person who starts a team is they can design their own T-shirt. And so this was my family's T-shirt.
Hold it right over onto that camera, Mary. Over to the left. There you go.
Okay.
Hit it with that one, Todd. There you go.
All right. And then on the back, we have the names of our close family who have taken their own lives, and a big heart in the middle. So that's one of our shirts. And then last year, we didn't have such a big team, but we decided this year to bring more out of the darkness. And so this is the shirt that we had last year, and that's my brother who took his life in 2005. And this is my husband's son, Gage, who took his life in 2011, which prompted all the work that we have been doing.
Now, have you seen an increase in this since, say, the 2 wars that were involved in, like the post-traumatic stress disorder? Are you seeing veterans coming back from overseas with this tendency more than you used to?
Yes, yeah. As you know, there are 20 or 22 military people, either veterans or active, who take their own lives every day. It's a huge unsolved problem.
Yeah, and I guess I would have to ask, do they know they can get help?
I think they do, and I think that the veterans clinics are being much more aggressive in offering that help, in making them aware of what they can do. But I know that there's an awful lot to do in that, and we've only touched the surface. But I think the military is really getting their act together to hopefully do more about that.
Yeah, I know my cousin was in Vietnam, and when he came back after a year, he got absolutely zero briefing, debriefing. Help wasn't offered.
Right.
You didn't do that. You were supposed to be tough. You were in the Army, and that was, you just dealt with it. And but I'm seeing that trend is changing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It really is, and it's got to change. One of the things that you'd see if you were at our walks is we have these beads. We have different colored beads for each type of loss. And often you'll see people with many different color beads on, meaning they've been touched by suicide in many ways. whether it's a son, a sibling, a parent, a friend, they're troubled themselves or what. So it's this is one of the things that really touches our hearts at our walks, as we see how many people have been touched so frequently. And the other thing at our walks, we give out, and or some years we sell these bracelets that people can keep forever and wear to promote awareness about how serious suicide is. In the United States, we lose between 35 and 45,000 people a year to suicide. And then if you think of all the attempts that people make, it's amazing. Do you want me to keep talking? I have other things to share.
Please do.
Okay.
I have some questions, but I want you to do the bulk of the talking, so please continue.
Okay. At our walk, we always display our memory quilt.
Okay.
And it's this year, we've had the quilt finished for 3 years, and this year we're starting another quilt. So I have a form, and I ask people to email or call me. My number is out there everywhere, and I could give it to you again.
We're going to put it on the end of the show. We're going to put your contact information for sure.
Great, thank you. And if you would like to have the person you lost to suicide in our next Northeast Kingdom memory quilt, please, contact me. We're going to be starting that very soon. The other thing I want everyone to know is that every third Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. we have a support group at Faith Lighthouse Church, and people, I know what that is. Yep. Yes, and people who have suffered a loss from suicide, no matter how recent or how long ago, are welcome to join us, and we look forward to seeing you there. And then once a year, we have what's called an International Survivor of Suicide Day. It's not a full day, but this year it's also at Faith Lighthouse Church. It's on this coming Saturday, November 19th, and it's from 10 to noon. And what initiated this by the AFSP is because holidays are so often so very hard for people who've had a loss, especially a loss to suicide. And so every year they create a new film which is just about a half hour long, and it helps people to identify with the feelings that the people in the film are having, and to share with each other what's going on in their life, what's worked to help them get through holidays that have passed, and how to get re-energized to get through the holidays. So it's this Saturday, 10 to 12, at Faith Lighthouse Church. Everybody is welcome. We'll have some food, we'll have some conversation, and we'll have the viewing of the new DVD, which is excellent. So we'd love to have people join us.
Now, do you find that you just talked about the holidays. Isn't it true that the holidays seem to put more people at risk?
It seems that way. I'm not sure I have any facts that can say that, probably just because I haven't studied it. But it does seem that way. I think holidays tend to bring on depression, and depression can often lead to suicide if people don't get help. So that's very true.
In my opinion, and I've had some dealings with this, the holidays, especially Christmas, New Year's, you run into 3 different types of issues when it comes to, the feelings of taking one's own life, or even attempts. You have unmet expectations. You expect something really wonderful and magical, and it doesn't happen.
Exactly, yeah.
Or you have extreme loneliness.
Right.
Or you have extreme substance abuse. That's my opinion.
All 3 of those things, right? And sometimes if people have had a loss to suicide during that year, this depression and this unmet expectation factor and the alcohol or substance abuse of other kinds can bring on the feeling, if he did it, I can do it. He's better off, I'm going to be better off. And that's what that's why we hope and pray we can get people to seek mental health, because they can get through it.
Yes, and I know several mental health clinicians because I used to be a counselor myself, not for mental health, but for substance abuse. So they're out there, guys, and there's plenty of them. So I encourage anybody who's at risk.
Yes.
And has any counselor or anybody ever explained exactly what risk is?
No.
Okay. Well, I'll tell everyone, and this is important because this ties right in with what Mary is saying here. So this is important. Risk is the potential for hurtful, harmful, or irresponsible behavior towards yourself or others. And you have to be able to identify that risk. And that's why instead of saying the holidays cause more people to commit suicide, I said more people at risk, because that's the bottom line. You've got to be able to identify the risk.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do, and I think that's what you and your organization is trying to do.
Definitely, definitely. And the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention has a mission: saving lives and giving hope. And they do this through outreach, prevention, education, and research. So every year when the research results come in, they create new educational tools, whether it's brochures, DVDs, and they continue to respond to what's working through the findings in their research. So
now you how many chapters? You said Vermont has one chapter?
Yes.
Now, do you take in other areas of the state, or is it all centrally located here in Newport?
No, it didn't even start here. We didn't start here till 5 years ago.
Okay.
Burlington has been going for about 12 years now, and last year or the year before, Springfield, Vermont, started a walk, and then in 2011 we started our walk. We started our walk because, well, my stepson took his life in March. John Bathalon took his life in August. And shortly after that, Sean Chaput took his life. And the three of us mothers came together. And then soon Betty and Chris Barrett joined us. Betty had lost her son many years ago. And that was the core of it. And it was like something was drawing us together, and it was the grief over losing our loved ones. And I think each of us feel in our hearts that if we could save one life, then we're doing something pretty significant. If we could create more awareness and get people to get help when they're feeling vulnerable, if we could do those things and continue to educate, then we're spending our time in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and it goes right back to identifying risk.
Right.
And another thing that I'm sure you can tell us more about this also, but do you find that seasonal affect disorder plays another part in this, also known as SAD or SADD?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I know people who've even gotten those special lights and trying other things, people who are affected by that, and I think that's so healthy.
Yeah.
You know, but back to the real kernel of this, I think that children in school need to learn that there is not only physical health, but there's mental health.
Yes.
And mental health is indeed as important as physical health.
Yes, and the two do go together, because if you're feeling crappy about yourself, you probably won't exercise.
Yeah.
And if you are exercising, you might actually feel better about yourself.
Right, exactly.
It has to do with your own self-esteem.
Yes.
And by the way, I believe, I'm not sure of this, but I believe the Scandinavian countries that suffer from seasonal affect disorder, they've developed those full spectrum lights.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think the Swedes may have, but that's a big problem up there.
Yeah.
But they've worked on that, and I think it's a good thing too. Now, when does the Newport walk usually happen?
Happens the Saturday after Labor Day.
Okay.
So next year it will be on September 9th. and the benefit dinner will be the night before. We haven't decided on the place yet. But September 9th, put it on your calendars and join us, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are obviously people that don't know that you're out there. And what have you done? Have you done any advertising or other than a TV show like this? Have you done any other ways to try to reach out to people?
Yes, we do. Chris Roy has been wonderful about doing some stories about our work. We also do flyers. So we put these flyers out in many different places, and people will see them. When we start to organize for our walk next year, through the AFSP, we'll get nice large posters, and we'll be putting them out. And then closer to the walk, we put lawn signs in.
Okay.
And we want every bit of publicity. We had a great article in last year from the Newport Dispatch, and the Chronicle, the 7 Days, and the Caledonia Record. We had great coverage, and then we also get in their calendars and. Yeah.
I know many years ago when my family first moved to Vermont, which was 1956, we left New York City because it was, back then it was not a good place. It was a very, crime rate was very high, it was very crowded, very polluted. We found it astounding that Vermont had a higher suicide rate than New York City.
Yes.
And that back then it was noted that it was because of loneliness and because Vermont was so rural. I'm wondering if that still plays a factor in it, because today with the internet, you can get connected to almost anybody or anything.
You can, but I don't think, I think that the economy is a huge factor.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with you, Mary.
I really do. And I think that there are a lot of teenagers and young adults who feel like they're almost like there's no way out unless they join the military, or they don't see the vision for what they can become as an individual, and as a human being, what they can contribute to the world. And we're working on that. A number of groups are working on that. One of the opportunities I have is being part of HealthWorks One, and we are really working on decreasing substance abuse, decreasing teenage drinking and binging and all that, and a number of efforts, decreasing tobacco use. But I know we've got to get more options for youth to participate in, and give them some hope, because some of them are raised not having any confidence, not having any self-confidence. And I think when you don't have self-confidence, you don't see a lot of possibilities.
I agree, and so I agree with this. You touched on this just briefly, socioeconomics. Do you find that more people, that income levels or even economic status, in other words, if you're more well off, you're less likely to be at risk, or
It's not been proven.
No, it hasn't.
No,
Okay.
It hasn't. Every status level, and oftentimes we don't know. The only thing that they've found in forensic research is that 90% of the people who take their own lives have had a diagnosable mental health condition.
Okay.
That's pretty significant.
Does it usually center around depression?
It often centers around depression.
Okay. But there are other
bipolar.
It could be bipolar, could be anxiety,
right.
It could be any of those
Schizophrenia,
things.
Paranoia, right.
Yeah,
Yes.
There's a lot of research to be done with brain chemistry, and because we know a lot, but we don't know a lot.
Right.
That sort of thing.
And if you're interested in research, in the findings of the research, the AFSP website, www.afsp.com, has wonderful findings, and you can read the latest research. You can look at all the educational tools available, and they're available for a minimal amount of money. So
now, if somebody wants to contact you or your organization. Can you tell us, websites, phone numbers?
Yes. Let me give you the most important number.
Okay.
If someone out there is thinking of taking, if you're thinking of taking your own life, there's a suicide prevention hotline, and that is 24 hours a day. It's 800-273-8255.
I'm glad you said that slowly, because most people, when they rattle off phone numbers, they say it so darn fast.
Right.
You don't get it all. Is there a website they could?
There is. It's www.afsp.com.
Okay.
If you want to get involved in the walk, it's afsp./outofthedarkness.com. And once you go into AFSP, you'll see all the options for getting into the site, the part of the site that you want to get into. My number, and I'm happy to put you in touch with whomever you'd like to be in touch with, is 802-323-3706. That's my mobile phone. Yes.
I want to thank you for being on, Mary. This is the interview time with you goes very, very quickly, and we're going to be wrapping it up here in just a second. Any final words?
My final word is I brought you a T-shirt, Terry.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
And it is a thank you for volunteering to interview me 3 times, well, you 2 times, and Sharon, and for helping to spread the word about suicide.
Well, I thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Do you think it'll match my suit?
No, I don't think you ought to wear it today.
Mary, it's been a pleasure.
You too. Thanks, Terry.
You're always a good guest, and I always get more information, and we always get more information out.
Good.
So I want to thank you.
That's what we want to do. Thank you.
This is Terry Difazio for Dial It Up, saying we'll be seeing you around. Have a good day. Bye.